when people say, oh, I want to be like you, I want to be an actor, I want to look like you, the question I always ask them is why?
Achievement is wonderful when you know why you're doing it. And when you don't know, it can be a terrible trap.
And it's, my mother when I was very little said, just very few people in this world have a passion and know exactly what they want to do. And she said when I was saying, I want to leave school and be an actor, she was like, I would never stand in your way because the passion of knowing what you want to do is worth so much.
I struggled through school. I never felt very smart. And when I'm reading this script, and I feel like I know exactly what it would look like if somebody felt that way. That was a whole part of my brain that I didn't even know existed, something that I could be confident in, and I didn't want to let it go. It's just an overwhelming feeling of, I get this. This is what I was meant to do, and to get people to try to understand that when you're 14 years old, wanting to drop out of school and do this, and your parents are just like, you're out of your mind. Dropped out of middle school. I don't technically have a GED or a diploma. I am self-educated.
Do you regret that?
No, I really don't. I wanted to forge my own path. I found what I wanted to do, and I didn't want anything getting in the way of it. And even friends for many years were not as important to me as my career. I mean, from the age of 14.
I hadn't learned to love myself yet. I hadn't gotten there. And if you don't love yourself when someone else says horrible things to you, a part of you is always going to believe them. I want to figure out who I am. I want to learn who I am, and I don't want to feel like I'm fragile every time I leave the house because I'm so dependent on what other people think about me. I just took a step back and just kept living.
What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have.
When I finished school, I was completely lost. I had no ambition. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did everything from I shucked oysters, I was a hostess, I was a bartender, I was a waitress, I painted houses, I sold vacuum cleaners. I had no idea. And I thought I'd just finally settle on some job and I would make enough money to pay my rent, maybe have basic cable, maybe not. I didn't really have a plan. The way I ended up on this path was from a very tragic event. I was maybe 19, and my girlfriend at the time was killed in a car accident. And I passed the accident, and I didn't know it was her, and I kept going. And I found out shortly after that it was her. And I was living in a basement apartment. I had no money. I had no heat, no air. I had a mattress on the floor, and the apartment was infested with fleas, and I was soul searching. I was like, why is she suddenly gone and there are fleas here? I don't understand. There must be a purpose, and wouldn't it be so convenient if we could just pick up the phone and call God and ask these questions? And I started writing, and what poured out of me was an imaginary conversation with God, which was one-sided. And I finished writing it, and I looked at it and I said to myself, and I hadn't even been doing stand-up ever. There was no club in town. I said, I'm going to do this on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. At the time, he was the king. And I'm going to be the first woman in the history of the show to be called over to sit down. And several years later, I was the first woman in the history of the show, and only woman in the history of the show, to sit down because of that phone conversation with God that I wrote.
The outcome's always going to be you never know what the outcome's going to be. And you can't do it you can't take on a job because, oh, well, what am I going to get? This has got to be a good one. You have to just always go by your gut, and if you're going to enjoy yourself and have a good time creatively and work with people, time saver. Don't work with angry people. Don't work with pain in the ass actors. Don't work with, get all your information and say, yeah, life's too short rule. That falls under that. I will move on.
Confidence is the most important thing, and if you tell a child that they're not good at something and you tell a child that they're stupid, then they'll feel like they are. And so I think it's really important to say you're not stupid. Your brain simply works differently than other people, and you can find different ways around it, and you'll be good at other things. You may not be a brilliant speller, you may not be a very fast reader, but you will learn how to read, and you will learn as much spelling as you need to, but you'll be better at different things, and I think that's unbelievably important to know as a kid. Because the world is changing, and imagination is key to everything.
Who are we? I was born and raised in Educated in the public schools of New Jersey, Viola was born in a sharecropper's cabin in South Carolina, came up in Central Falls, Rhode Island. Sarah Paulson was born in Florida, raised by a single mom in Brooklyn. Sarah Jessica Parker was one of 7 or 8 kids from Ohio. Amy Adams was born in Vicenza, Veneto, Italy. And Natalie Portman was born in Jerusalem. And the beautiful Ruth Nega was born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Ryan Gosling, like all the nicest people, is Canadian. And Dev Patel was born in Kenya, raised in London, is here playing an Indian raised in Tasmania. Isn't it such a privilege, Meryl, just to be an actor? Yeah, it is, and we have to remind each other of the privilege and the responsibility of the act of empathy. As my friend, the dear departed Princess Leia, said to me once, take your broken heart, make it into art.
You here will all go on to achieve great things. There is no doubt about that. Each time you set out to do something new, your inexperience can either lead you down a path where you will conform to someone else's values, or you can forge your own path, even if you don't realize that's what you're doing. If your reasons are your own, your path, even if it's a strange and clumsy path, will be wholly yours, and you will control the rewards of what you do by making your internal life fulfilling. That helping others ends up helping you more than anyone. Getting out of your own concerns and caring about someone else's life for a while reminds you that you are not the center of the universe, and that in the ways we are generous or not, we can change the course of someone's life.
The question I always ask them is why? Like, really, why? And people, and especially America, this idea of fame, that to be famous means that you're successful, that you're happy. Fame does not define me. And so if you are looking for fame to define you, then you will never be happy. And you will always be searching for happiness, and you will never find it in fame. And so it goes back to, I think for me, authenticity, intention. Why do you want to do anything you do? It should not be motivated by something that you think is going to make fulfillment comes from within you, by being authentic to yourself, not chasing fame.
Really, when I look back on it, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it was so important for me to lose everything because I found out what the most important thing is to be true to yourself. And ultimately, that's what's gotten me to this place. I don't live in fear, I'm free, I have no secrets, and I know I'll always be okay because no matter what, I know who I am.
You know, we all have varying degrees of loss and sadness and pain in our lives, and it's a necessity, honestly, because then how would we appreciate the good times and the hopeful times and all of the abundance that life has, if you go and grab it. But it's a personal choice to get up and move on and be better.
And I'm especially proud and inspired by all the women who have felt strong enough and empowered enough to speak up and share their personal stories. And I've interviewed and portrayed people who withstood some of the ugliest things life can throw at you, but the one quality all of them seem to share is an ability to maintain hope for a brighter morning, even during our darkest nights. So I want all the girls watching here and now to know that a new day is on the horizon. And when that new day finally dawns, it will be because of a lot of magnificent women and some pretty phenomenal men fighting hard to make sure that they become the leaders who take us to the time when nobody ever has to say, "Me too," again.